He's Ross Tucker, Westwood One, CBS Sports NFL college football analyst, former NFL offensive lineman. Make sure you download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the promo code Patrick. And DraftKings Sportsbook, promo code Patrick. The crown is yours. And we make way for Ross Tucker, who joins us on the program. What are the odds that Bill Belichick, Mike Vrabel, and Pete Carroll are not coaching in the NFL next season?
Very good. At this point, it seems unlikely. I mean, a lot of people are pointing towards Ben Johnson, the Lions offensive coordinator, ending up in Washington. And then there's only one spot left in Seattle. Some people still think that'll be Dan Quinn. Obviously, the Ravens defensive coordinator is a young star and Mike McDonald. I don't know if I envision Vrabel going up there. It's such an interesting dynamic, Dan, that I think you'll appreciate, right? A lot of these teams already have their general manager in place.
Yeah.
Well, if you're Adam Peters and you're the new GM in Washington, and you know that there was some conflict between Vrabel and Rand Carthon, do you want to bring Vrabel to Washington? I mean, Peters and Rand Carthon, Dan, were together out in San Francisco for years. John Schneider, he just finally got control, right? Pete Carroll, remember, Pete Carroll had final say over the roster in Seattle. John Schneider finally has total control. Does he want to bring in somebody like Vrabes, who very likely wants that power? I mean, that's where we're at now, where some of these more high-profile guys are basically losing these power struggles, and that's why it took so long for Harbaugh and the Chargers. Harbaugh was not giving in until he got the structure he wanted, and the Chargers gave it to him.
Okay, why is Bill Belichick not getting interviewed by any other teams, and why did he not get the Falcons job?
So let's start with the Falcons job. He didn't get the Falcons job because he wanted what he wanted. I think he probably, look, there's two ways to look at it. Either he overplayed his hand or he's not going to coach unless he gets what he wants. But by all accounts, he wanted to report directly to the owner. The Falcons have a structure in place where they have a team president in Rich McKay. Rich McKay doesn't want to lose his power or lose his job or whatever. And so I think that was an issue for people. You have a GM in Terry Fontenot. He knows he's as good as gone, basically, if Belichick gets the job. So I think that's tough for an owner like Arthur Blank. If the two guys that you're around all the time, the GM Fontenot, the president McKay, are saying, you don't want Belichick. He's old, and look what he's done the last few years. You don't want the guy. Everybody in the NFL, Dan, never forget this. I know you know this. I'm saying this for the audience. Everybody's out for themselves. Everybody's looking out for their own personal best interest. And so a lot of times that's how you're able to connect the dots. Fontenot, McKay, they didn't want Belichick, I'm quite sure.
Yeah, but there's a report that Arthur Blank did want Bill Belichick. Is the feeling or the sense that others talked him out of that for the reasons, or at least some of the reasons you're saying?
Well, I think he desperately wanted Bill Belichick to be the head coach. I think Bill Belichick, that's got to be hard. I mean, in fairness to Bill, 20 years where you're calling all the shots and now you're not shopping for any of the groceries. You're just the cook, so to speak. I think Belichick thought, it's just a guess. I have no inside information, but my guess is Belichick thought or heard that Blank wanted him so bad that I think Belichick thought he could be, shopping for the groceries and cooking the meal, and Blank decided no.
You could probably cook a better meal than we have for Meat Friday, but I
heard about that. I'm glad I'm
fry.
on here to cheer you up. What's the decision-making hierarchy here? Because a couple weeks ago, when I filled in for you, they said, what would you like? And I said, brats. Bam, brats. I mean, they had brats when I requested them, Dan, because I like to put them in my mustard cup as I'm driving back to Pennsylvania after I fill in for you.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the decision-making power is when you're there, but I asked for brats and I got them.
Well, I'm not an owner like David Tepper is. I let my people do their job. That's what I do. And I let Tyler do his job. And so when he said we have chicken stir fry, and we have egg rolls. And I said, it's called Meat Friday. So
would tacos count for a Meat Friday?
If there's ground beef in them, or maybe pork in there, yeah.
So the issue is the chicken stir fry. If it was pork stir fry,
no,
or beef stir fry, you'd be okay.
You need to have meat. It's called a Meat Friday. It's not stir fry or stir Friday. It's not egg roll Friday. Tyler made a mistake. That's all. It's just, but as an owner, that's what I do. I just pick them up and I say, hey, dust them off. Hey, we'll have a better Friday next Friday. We're talking to Ross Tucker. Ross is going to be on the sidelines for Westwood 1, Chiefs and the Ravens here. Give me the non-quarterback who will have the most impact on this game, and then we'll do the other game.
That's a good question for the AFC game. The NFC game, I think it's very, very obvious. AFC game, I'm going to say Travis Kelce. Okay. It's hard to imagine the Chiefs winning in my mind if he doesn't have a really good game. A lot of people thought this year was the first example, Dan, where he really wasn't quite what he has been, that maybe he's lost a little bit.
Yeah.
Had a really good game against the Bills last week, had 2 touchdowns, was still a major factor in that game. I think that's kind of the key matchup. Unlike the Bills, the Ravens have 2 really good off-the-ball linebackers, and they have a safety who actually matches up well with Kelce. Kyle Hamilton's like 6'4", 215. He's like the prototype to be able to cover a tight end like Kelce man-to-man. So if Kelce has a really good game, I think the Chiefs have a chance. But it's hard for me to picture talking on Monday about the Chiefs winning the game if Kelce doesn't have a big game. So I'll go Kelce.
All right. What about the Ravens?
Oh, both teams. Okay. Non-quarterback for the Ravens. I'm gonna go defensive side of the ball, and I'm gonna say Justin Madubuike. This guy had 13 sacks, and this is a key thing for people to note that other people won't talk about enough. I don't think Joe Thuney, the all-pro left guard, is going to play for the Chiefs. So now they got a backup journeyman Ross Tucker type going up against a guy that had 13 sacks in a career. You don't want that. Like you don't want me or someone like me going against Madubuike one-on-one in obvious passing situations. So Allegretti, he's played before. He's solid. He hopefully won't lose the game.
Did you ever have a defensive lineman who was outright giddy to face you?
I don't know if I'd say that, but so you're going to love this. 2002, okay? I get cut by Washington, picked up on waivers by the Cowboys. The guy in front of me gets hurt, so I'm starting at left guard. For whatever reason, Larry Allen has a bad ankle, so they list him as questionable almost every week, Dan. Like, at least the first 4 weeks. They might have eventually put him on IR, but at least the first 3 or 4 weeks, he was questionable, and he was the Cowboys' left guard. I was basically filling in for him. Dan, I have never seen defensive players so happy to see me in my entire life. Every week when I went out there, they looked at me and they were like, oh, thank God it's this dude and not Larry Allen. So, yes, they were giddy that they were playing against me and not Larry Allen. That's for sure.
Okay. The X factor for the Niners, X factor for the Lions will be who?
Okay, this is easy. And I didn't even know this to this extent till earlier in the week. It's Deebo Samuel. So I do a betting podcast, part of the DraftKings Network. It's called the Even Money Betting Podcast. And I found out this week, I never would have guessed this. Deebo Samuel is the most valuable non-quarterback skill player in the NFL against the spread.
Yeah, I had those numbers.
I called my co-host out on it, Dan. And I said, wait. They have Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, McCaffrey, and Deebo's that important? I didn't know this. The Niners average 2 yards more per play when Deebo's in the lineup than when he's not. that equates to 1.5 to 2 points against the spread. I've never heard of a quarterback being that valuable, according to the odds makers and the professional bettors, as Deebo Samuel.
You mean
1.5 to 2 points.
non-quarterback.
Non-quarterback.
Yeah. Also, the Niners are 12-1 straight up and 10-3 against the spread when Deebo starts and finishes a game. They're 1-4 straight up and 0-5 against the spread when he doesn't. So that adds even more influence to what you're pointing out there. So you got Deebo for the Niners. Don't know if he's going to play and how much. And then the Lions' X factors.
You know, I'll say Aleem McNeil and Aiden Hutchinson. I think they got to dominate up front. McNeil's the D tackle, Hutchinson's the D end. You know, the Lions' corners are not good. I'm a little surprised Aaron Glenn plays as much man coverage as he does. They're probably going to draft the corner and sign one in free agency because both those guys struggle. They got to stop the run, and they need to get pressure. Get Purdy in the obvious passing downs because he's not great. He's much better play action, much better first and second down passer. Third down, obvious passing downs. I think those guys working against, especially the right side of the Niners O-line, like Aiden Hutchinson against McKivitz, that is a matchup the Lions can, and let's be honest, they have to win that. Hutchinson has to have a big game going against McKivitz off the right side.
Safe travels to Baltimore, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you. Sounds great. It's a very short drive. I'll likely be wearing my orange jacket on the Chiefs sideline, trying to steal as much TV time as I can.
All right, we'll play the game of fine Ross Tucker on the sidelines there. Ross joining us on behalf of DraftKings Sportsbook, and use the promo code Patrick. New customers can bet just $5. Get $200 instantly in bonus bets only on DraftKings Sportsbook. Promo code Patrick. The crown is yours. Thank you, Ross.
My pleasure. Thank you, Dan.
That's the lovely and talented Ross Tucker from Westwood One. He'll be on the sidelines for he's the sideline reporter for the Chiefs and the Ravens. He'll be on the Chiefs sideline.